A one, two, three, four.
This is the Infatuasian podcast, a show where we celebrate and elevate Asian culture and creators. Today we're speaking to a Bay Area son who is traveling somewhere. I'll find out in a minute, but traveling around the country performing in Disney's adaptation of Beauty and the Beast, which I know for a lot of you out there, that's probably one of your favorite Disney movies. But it's now on stage and it's coming to a town near you. I'll shout out the San Francisco date since we're local here, but check their website. You can find where it's going to play, and so hopefully you can see this production. And so we are welcoming to the show Julian DeGuzman. Welcome to the show, Julian.
Thank you. Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So the next question is, oh yeah, my pleasure. The next question is, where are you?
So I'm currently in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Okay.
We just came from Philadelphia. We had to wait out a blizzard that dumped over a foot of snow.
Yeah.
And then we got here on Tuesday and we had a show Tuesday night. So yeah, it's been quite the week. The weather's been very cooperative here in Pittsburgh, thankfully.
Okay.
So,
Not
yeah.
bad. Just to make you jealous, it's about 75 outside right now here in San Francisco.
You know, I FaceTime my girlfriend because she's in the Bay and she makes me jealous every single day. Like, oh yeah, it's 65. I'm eating In-N-Out. And I'm like,
outdoors.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Bay Area roots, where'd you grow up?
Yeah, I grew up in Alameda.
Okay.
So yeah, I was born in Vallejo and then I grew up most of my life in Alameda, went to St. Joseph Notre Dame High School.
Okay.
And then eventually made my way down south to University of California, Irvine, where I got my dance degree and moved to New York not too long after that.
Okay. How about ancestral roots?
Ancestral roots. So both my parents are from the Philippines. My mom is from the island of Samar in the Philippines.
Mm-hmm.
And she immigrated to the US in sometime in the late 70s, I believe. My dad, on the other hand, he was born in the Philippines, but he actually grew up in San Francisco. So during World War II, my dad's he had me. He was a bit later in life.
Uh-huh.
So he came over with my grandparents during World War II.
Oh, okay.
And grew up in San Francisco. Grew up in the Fillmore mostly. Went to Galileo High School where you're currently at. This is many moons ago.
Yeah.
So yeah, eventually though, my parents, they met in New York City.
Oh.
My mom was doing her residency at a hospital in the Bronx, and my dad was, I believe he was doing his dissertation program at Queens College or Columbia. Might have been both of them.
Okay.
And funny story, my dad was actually teaching a jazzercise class that my mom was taking.
Okay.
And for both of them, it was like the stress relief from both of the programs that they were part of. And then they met and then eventually made their way to the San Francisco Bay Area. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm guessing your house might have been filled with music, maybe some singing, maybe some dancing when you're growing up.
Yeah, I'm actually really lucky that, both my parents, they're both professionals in their field. So my mom is a doctor. She was an anesthesiologist and she worked at Alta Bates Summit for decades in Oakland. My dad was a college professor and worked in the community college system in Alameda and Oakland for years, decades as well. So they both have science backgrounds. And with that, I'm very grateful that considering that they're both Asian science nerds, I had and continue to have their support in the arts. It's we'll get to that later. That's very layered, but considering the careers that my parents were both in, it was actually my dad that got me into dance growing up. The idea was if I am a well-rounded person. So if I train in ballet, tap, jazz, musical instruments like violin and piano, even martial arts, if I do all of these things, it makes me a renaissanced and well-rounded
Yeah.
person. And the idea it was, if we're in this country, let's take advantage of the opportunities at our disposal. So as a kid, he was trucking me and my sister around in his Ford Aerostar. Went to take dance classes all over the Bay Area, Oakland Ballet, San Francisco Ballet,
Oh, wow.
um, Cal Berkeley, their kids gymnastics program, violin lessons in Oakland and Berkeley. Yeah, we were all over the place, and it's funny we're doing this podcast not too far removed from Alyssa Liu, an Oakland native,
I know.
winning her gold medal, and hearing the story of her dad going far and wide to get the best training. In
Yeah.
many ways, I resonate with that because
Yeah.
I was lucky that I had a father that was so dedicated also to finding the best training. It didn't matter how far. We would go all the way up to Petaluma for a gymnastics meet, or he would drive me 5 days a week for a gymnastics camp at Stanford. Um, Flying to New York for dance competitions.
Uh,
Um, yeah, so it's pretty cool to see and feel the result of that type of dedication from my
yeah.
dad.
Yeah. No, that is cool. We hear about Chloe Kim's dad, Alyssa Liu's dad. It's really dedication out there for all you dads driving, all these soccer moms and volleyball dads out there. We
Yeah, I didn't get it when I was a kid, but I recognize it now that I get older. Like, wow, the amount of gas, the car
Yeah.
breakdowns, etc. Oof.
Yeah. And just the lessons, once you get into those dance, I have two daughters that did dance for a while, and it gets pretty real pretty fast and you start doing 3, 4 days a week. It adds up financially too. So it's a
Oh,
big commitment.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Quite the sacrifices you make.
Yeah, for sure. All right, cool. So Bay Area kid, did you do productions in high school? Like, did you know you wanted to be on stage? When did you get that bug where you said, I just love being on stage?
Okay, so here's the thing. Like, I actually was not in love with dance initially throughout my childhood. It was
Uh-huh.
something that, like like I mentioned, my dad would bring me to these ballet classes, dance classes, etc. And ballet as an art form, it requires so much dedication and focus and concentration while you're doing it. And so as a kid, as a
Yeah.
7, 8-year-old kid,
Yeah.
I'm staring out the window
Yeah.
wondering like, God, when is this gonna end? But my dad just kept repeating the
Mm.
same kind of mantra over and over, like, you don't understand it now, but you'll thank me later.
Uh-huh.
And so, um, your original question about, like, when did I get the theater bug? I think it was when I started to get into middle and high school, when the payoff I started to notice a little bit more. Like, I would do little tricks on the schoolyard in front of my friends.
Uh-huh.
Like, I would do like a backflip or spin around a bunch of times, and
Uh-huh.
people would be like, "Whoa, that's a random party trick you're pulling out there."
Yeah.
And it wasn't until that point where I was like, "Oh, okay, like, this is actually something that can be recognized as cool."
Yeah.
Um, eh, so I would say I started my sophomore year of high school. I was in my first
Mm.
uh, theater production of Cinderella,
Okay.
and I kinda swung for the I would didn't take it really seriously. I went into that audition just like, if I'm part of the ensemble, I'm happy with that. I grew up mainly as a dancer, so going into a singing audition, I didn't have the greatest confidence, but I was like, "Let's see what happens." Sure enough, they cast me as the prince for Cinderella, and I was like, "Whoa, this is different, but alright, let's run with this." Um, I ended up not it wasn't the first thing that I jumped to performing because I was still in my comfort zone of being both a musician and a dancer.
Mm.
So I did that one production in high school, and then I ended up being in the orchestra pit for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat the
Okay.
following year because I was like, I want to do something else. I want to do something
Uh-huh.
different. Um, and then in college, I I did the dance program at UC Irvine.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, meanwhile, my sister actually is a performer as well. So she
Mm-hmm.
kind of paved the way a little bit, carved the path for me. So while I was at
Uh,
school, she had just actually landed. Um, she was the she was part of the cast of the non-union tour, the network's production of Beauty and the Beast.
oh wow.
So yeah, and that was while I was ending my time um, during my undergrad at
Mm-hmm.
UC Irvine. So
Yeah.
in my mind, I was like, oh, I guess that's what you do with a dance degree. Like you go to New York and you audition, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where the jobs are at. So I was like, all right, let me try this thing. So not too long after I graduated, I went to New York, and then within a couple of years started performing regularly. And yeah, so in a lot of ways, I have to have my sister to thank for that. Shout out to Robin DeGuzman
All right.
in Alameda.
Shout out, Robin. Yeah, sometimes when you can see it, you can be it, Like, if you didn't know that that was an option, you may not have done it. That's why it's important to see people like you. And years ago, we interviewed Stephanie Slay Park. I don't know if you've ever met her.
Hmm.
She was Eliza Hamilton, and before that, she was, like, not seeing roles for herself, until Philippa Sue,
Mm,
made that role so famous. And
absolutely.
then, sometimes you just don't realize, like, she was actually resigned to being ensemble for the rest of her life. She was kind of like, well, I guess I'll be the token Asian for the rest of my life. But then now she's getting leads, and you as well, and that's
I will say there is something to be said about, as an ensemble performer and dancer, um, we oftentimes get kind of looked over because sometimes we could do a whole show and not open our mouths to speak a
yeah,
single line.
yeah,
That's very often the case. However, I will say as ensemble performers, we are really holding it down with the show. Like the
yeah,
show could not be what it is
yeah.
without the support of the ensemble. And what I will also add is around the time when I moved to New York, Newsies was just beginning its
Mm,
production at Paper Mill Playhouse,
mm,
or it just wrapped, and they had their Tony performance as well. And I remember watching it and seeing there was a Filipino guy
huh,
in the Tony performance, and I remember thinking to myself, "Wait, there's a Filipino guy." Come to find out, his name is Aaron Albano. He was from San Jose,
oh,
California. And I
yeah.
was like, wait, another Filipino American from the Bay? If he can do it, then there's a place for me too.
Yeah,
And I feel like that really kind of galvanized me to audition. And again, seeing myself as part of the production, it was like, oh, they want my type also. That's really
yeah,
cool.
yeah.
And to this day, actually, me and Aaron are actually really good friends. We're
Uh,
really close. He's like my kuya, basically. And he really took me under his wing when I joined that production.
yeah.
And so it was like both the representation of seeing and my image reflected back to me of, oh, another Filipino
Mm-hmm.
from the Bay Area in the show,
Yeah.
and then how he basically became like a big brother figure. It was
Mm-hmm.
like the representation of that value of like deep care for me and for each other. Those are the two parts of representation that truly mattered to me in that situation.
Yeah. Nah, it's great to see. I always love it when I'm looking at, you get your little playbill and you're looking at who the cast is. It's always cool. Even if it's, yeah, like you said, it doesn't have to be a principal or a main character. I just love seeing, you go to the ballet and you see the diversity there, or you go to a musical or a stage show and you see some diversity. I love seeing it just because, I'm older than you. So growing up in the 70s and 80s, you just didn't see a whole lot of it. And then, someone like Lea Salonga comes along and just blows everyone away. And you start to see, hey, this is possible. You can see a career in this. That's really neat to see.
Yeah, Leia was actually my first concert I ever attended. I was 5 years old,
Yeah.
and I remember seeing her in concert and being like, "Oh, that's pretty cool." A Filipino on
Yeah.
stage singing, not just singing, but
killing it. Yeah,
But yeah, being incredible and being inspiring.
still
Um,
incredible. Yeah, she's so great. So, have you ever met her?
yeah, I remember the first time I met her, it was, I believe, it was on stage following a performance of Allegiance, the musical on
Yeah.
Broadway, starring George Takei.
George Takei.
And it was one of those kind of full circle moments of
Yeah.
like, I'm meeting you and you're treating me as a peer in the industry. Like, this is wild.
That's cool.
Um, so yeah, yeah, we're and then she added me as a friend on Facebook, which I was like, what is happening right now? Um, so
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah, and I'm putting thoughts into her head, but I would imagine that it's really cool for her to see too, that here's a little brother, here's a someone who's come up with her as someone that they've looked to, and then now you're friends. I think that's cool too. So I'm guessing it's cool for
Absolutely.
her.
Oh yeah, for sure.
So you got some Disney roots. It sounds like you got a little bit of the Disney stuff. So you did Newsies, you did revivals of Miss Saigon, Hello Dolly, Beetlejuice, and then
Mhm.
you did some regional things as well. Was there a role or a show that just sticks out to you as kind of like an inflection point where you felt like, okay, I'm making it. This is my Broadway dream right now.
You know, it's such a layered each project that I've done has just been so remarkably different from the last. Even though Beauty and the Beast is a Disney production, the difference between this show and Newsies, which was also a Disney show, um, immense differences.
Mm,
Um, I think the show that made me recognize that my place in the industry can be impactful and can have profound consequences that reach far beyond even my presence, um, was Miss Saigon.
oh,
It was such a layered experience for me because I knew going into that production that there were parts of it that I had deep questions and thoughts about
mm,
going into the rehearsal process. And then,
mm-hmm,
sure enough, while we were rehearsing in New York, I picked up on the fact that, wait a minute, this entire creative team is non Asian.
hmm,
And there was something about that raised a red flag internally. It
hmm,
was the internal tension and contradiction of I'm doing this show and I should be really grateful. And I am. I have so much gratitude for being here. And at the same time, we don't have a language consultant to teach us the
hmm,
language that we're portraying on stage.
mm-hmm.
Like I just had so many thoughts of like, wait a minute, am I losing it? And I think the important part of that experience for me was that there are many parts of that story that were very true in history. And there were also parts of that story that were being told through a particular lens.
Mhm.
And eventually, what I came to reflect on, and when I went into, eventually, when I joined the master's program at San Francisco State, and I really got an opportunity to truly unpack what had been building up from that experience,
Oh, okay.
it became an opportunity for me to kind of reclaim the voice that I had contributed to
Mm,
that particular show and to reshape the narratives surrounding it.
yeah,
Because it is one Asian story, one Asian American story, one of many that can be told, and the manner in which it is told, I can have a say in that in the future.
yeah.
Um, and so I think about my place in the industry after that, and I realized from that production, everyone who was a part of it, it was a whole United Nations of,
Mhm.
diversity within that show. So backstage, what was really cool and kind of fun about it was that, the opening scene, it's this big bar scene. All the
Mhm.
girls are in their bikinis, right? But then
Mhm.
backstage, like, they're wearing robes. There was this one girl I remember every intermission she would always DoorDash the same lo mein order from a place nearby, and so she would be like backstage just eating her noodles like in this bikini, and everyone's just kind of like, oh yeah, that's her doing her thing. We also would have boba delivered to the theater. My friend Aaron from Newsies, he actually had a rice cooker delivered to the theater for us. So it was such a culturally responsive and relevant environment that we all kind of understood each other,
Yeah.
even if, the material that we were presenting on stage had
Yeah.
its own situation. Um,
Yeah.
so being a part of something larger than ourselves, especially being a part of a collective that's we all go into this business and entertainment about ourselves, right? About wanting to um, promote our careers and wanting to uh, take on roles. But one thing I gained in terms of perspective from that was part of the reason why we do theater is because we all want to feel part of something bigger
Yeah.
than ourselves. And
Yeah.
we had our own community where we took care of each other. And that really is the power and responsibility of theater to bring people together and to make people feel connected socially, culturally. Um, and that was Miss Saigon was a huge inflection point to me. That was more than just the expressing myself on stage as an individual. No, it was
Yeah.
so much more powerful than that. All of the layers that came with it.
Yeah. I can imagine. Yeah. Good stuff. All right, flash forward to I'm not sure exactly when you started this production, but the national tour of Beauty and the Beast, Disney show. So everyone's seen the movie for sure. And I think of all the feature animated films, I think Beauty and the Beast probably lends itself the best to being a stage show. Just with all the moving parts and the amazing songs. Have you had a lot of fun being in the ensemble on this? Is it a workout every night? What's it like for you?
Oh, it is a workout. It's so it's so much fun to do because there are so many points where we get to be playful and we get to have fun and enjoy ourselves while still staying true to, you know, forwarding the story. Um, and I think that's the wonderful thing about when you're a part of an ensemble, there is a structure of things to follow, choreography to do, right? But then I also
Mhm.
I find so much freedom within myself. Like I start the show off, I sell cheese, and I have my own backstory actually of what being one of the villagers that sells cheese. And that makes it a lot of fun to interact with my fellow castmates on stage, and it keeps it interesting um, every single night. It's quite the spectacle, and we're jumping onto tables and bars, and I'm flipping around. I'm so grateful and lucky that, knock on wood, my body is still holding up at my age. That I was given this responsibility of flipping around on stage every night, coming up and down from the floor multiple times during the show. It's a lot of fun to do, and I think our audiences are having um, as much fun, if not more, just watching the entire thing
Yeah.
unfold.
I
It's really
love it. I
cool.
love it when there's a huge, like a big ensemble, and it's kind of fun to see the little interactions that aren't necessarily, part of the story. Like they're not part of the plot, but there's little like a guy selling cheese in the corner, or someone doing this, or someone flirting in the corner. Like it's kind of neat to see the little things that the ensemble gets to do that just to bring the whole thing to life. When are we set? We're set in like France in the 1700s, or when is the actual
Yeah,
something like that,
gen-
right?
generally something like that. And so with that, I'm like, yeah, I might be in France in the 1700s, but I will always be from the Bay Area
Yeah.
in my mind. So like I like have my own little quirks that kind of sneak into really subtly into the show that I like to crack myself up with those things. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Are there any like little pranks or things that you do to each other that the audience may not even notice, but you guys do little inside jokes and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we gotta make sure that we keep it, like, tempered, that it's still staying true
Uh,
to the story, but it's kind of like when you do 8 shows a week,
yeah.
it really is about the company that you're with and the joy that you share collectively, and I think every once in a while, a a prop piece will go flying across the stage or someone goes up on a line because it's live theater and we're human
Yeah.
beings and things
Yeah.
happen. And that requires us to just constantly be on our toes and be alert and be aware of anything anything can happen. Um, Especially audience responses.
Uh-huh.
There are a lot of kids who come to
Yeah.
see the show, and it's wonderful because you I walk up to the stage door, and on the way, I will see so many little girls dressed in Belle costumes, but
Oh,
it's also
yeah.
funny sometimes because sometimes they'll show up in an Elsa dress, and I'm like, "Oh, different
Yeah,
Disney show, but
you know
same
what?
world, I guess, I
It's
don't
on
know."
brand, yeah.
Yeah, and then you'll see, like, a kid in a dinosaur costume, and you're like, "Oh, you're the one who had a tantrum
Yeah.
getting into the car this morning." But,
Yeah.
yeah, I think, again, showing up to work every day at a theater where you're all part of telling the story, um, there are so many aspects that it's just the fact that our crew makes this production happen
Mm.
every single city, week to week to week. They take this entire multi-million dollar production, the stage, the lights, the sets, the props, costume, wardrobe, everybody is a cog in this wheel. And the fact that we close a show on a Sunday night, they make the entire production move in like 10 trucks to the next city. And we just show up as actors for sound check and it's
Yeah.
all set. It's a
Yeah.
miracle.
Yeah.
It's quite the the human experience to just like when you really think about it.
That's amazing. Yeah, is it I mean, not effect heavy, but there's definitely some effects, yeah, in this show, a little magic, a little stage magic.
So much. Actually, one of during our first few weeks of auditions, we had, um, our specialist and all of the magic tricks, and things that happen. His name's Lorenzo. He's actually from San Francisco.
Hey!
So him and I got along pretty well. His background was in circus, and he was teaching us, how
Uh,
to we practiced over and over, um, things like jumping off a trampoline and how to land and then catching bodies from the air, things like that. It took a lot of practice.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I would like to think we're what 7, 8 months in. By this point, we've got this machine rolling. So every single night, everybody is locked in and ready to go.
Now, are there more than one company? Are you in all the shows, all the cities?
So yeah, our North American tour. I'm part of the onstage ensemble, so I am 8 shows a week. I am on stage
Okay.
every single night. Um, yeah, that's kind of the fun part of it is, like, keeping it fresh, keeping it new. 8 shows a week, there are gonna be some days where, you have a little less energy than others, but then
Mhm.
you find ways to keep it fresh and keep it new,
Yeah.
and also you lean on your castmates, and that the community aspect of it all is
Yeah.
one of the really fun parts of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're lit 7, 8 days, 8 shows a week with the same people. You better get along.
I mean, there are times where we do not get along, and the one thing that about our flats ensemble, like, uh, sometimes we do butt heads, but what I will say is, like, it really is and can be like a family dynamic.
Sure.
We say things out loud when we disagree or things aren't going well,
Yeah.
and it might be awkward and uncomfortable at first, but I think that's kind of the incredible human part of it is we still engage in dialogue about things, and
Yeah.
even though it's hard at times, we still
Mhm.
journey with each other through it, and
Yeah.
we still have one common goal, which is to
Yeah.
tell the story with each other. And even if we might not see things a certain way, there is still a deep care,
Yeah.
regardless of that.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I can imagine because, like, if I don't get along with a coworker, I can kind of ignore them. But if you have to catch someone, or you're dependent on this person to do a move with you, you got to get along.
We're catching each other, we're living together, we're traveling with each other, we're working with each other, we spend a lot of time with each other. But
Yeah.
that is also the amazing part of it too, because you still feel cared for while still
Yeah.
being held to account toward the things that, we might be tired and we might take things
Hmm.
personally, but
Sure. Yeah.
there's also if you have that moment, you come back and you're like, "I'm sorry, I was just really tired when I said that thing. I did not
Yeah.
mean that." And
Yeah.
like I said, we journey with each other.
Everyone's been there. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So shout out to the San Francisco show. Starting on Bastille Day, July 14th,
I didn't even
Orpheum
realize
Theater.
that. That's
Yeah.
that's cool.
That's a little ironic. Yeah. So starting on July 14th through August 9th at the Orpheum. Have you ever performed at the Orpheum before?
Yeah, I actually got to perform for the first time in Newsies,
Okay.
many moons ago. That was I remember how nervous I felt before that first
It's your
performance.
home show.
Yeah, it's the theater where I saw Wicked, Mamma
I
Mia, all the
know.
shows
All
growing
the
up, and then the
shows. Yeah.
opportunity to perform there was it was incredible. And then my next tour after that, I performed at the Golden Gate Theater,
Okay.
and
Yeah.
so when I look back, I'm like, "Wow, I've been really fortunate to
Yeah.
spend time." And we tend to whenever we play San Francisco on tour, it usually is the longest sit down run,
Mm.
of any major city.
Mm.
Typically, like, we'll usually do 1, 2, 3 weeks in a city, but whenever it's in San Francisco, it's great because I get to stay at home in Alameda and I take Bart in, and it's like
Yeah.
familiarity again.
Perfect. Yeah, cannot wait. So everyone out there, you can go get tickets. I'll drop the website in the show notes. But yeah, wherever you are, like off the top of your head, you got a couple other cities that you're going to be hitting in the next couple months. You're in Pittsburgh now.
Man, where do we go? We're at the
I
point
gotta.
where we have so many cities that
You don't
sometimes I
even know.
forget the order. Well, I know
Yeah.
we're in Richmond next week, and then Louisville, and then Washington, DC.
Hmm.
Don't ask me the order of where we go after that, because man, we have like 9 one-weekers in a row. It's gonna be a
Yeah.
grind, but it's gonna be fun because a lot of places I haven't been to yet, so a lot of
Yeah.
exploration on deck.
That's cool. So probably within 1 or 200 miles of you out there, audience, you can find a production to go see, Beauty and the Beast, at a theater near you. All right, Julian, you've survived our difficult questions. Are you ready for a mini lightning round?
Yeah, absolutely, let's do it.
All right, we call this a YOW, which is called Your Asian Opinion. So it doesn't have to be a one-word answer. You can go as long as you want on this. What's your favorite part about being a Broadway performer?
Gosh, I think there are so many there are so many great things about it, but I would say number 1 above anything is community,
Yeah.
is when you're part of, a group that granted, sometimes we have very distinct differences among us. We come from all different backgrounds
Sure. Yeah.
culturally. We also have very different nervous systems, some regulated more than others. Um, but I think over the course of months and sometimes years, getting to know people and journey with each other, I think that's probably uh, my favorite part when people see you through various phases and chapters and evolutions.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would say that that's my favorite part of
Yeah.
Broadway.
I can imagine that too. And then you start to see people you've been on other shows with, I would imagine, now that you've been in the industry for a while. You're like, hey, weren't we on this show together? Or didn't we do this together? That's got to be kind of cool too,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Your coworkers become kind of your generation. So it's like it's pretty cool seeing the people I started off with.
You came up with, yeah.
Um, and I when I see people, book shows and get this role or that role. I'm at the point now where it's like, yes, this is a win for those
Uh-huh.
OGs who started off. Their success is my success. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, when you're back in the Bay Area, what's a place that you have to eat to know that you're home?
Okay, so this question, there, man, I love food so much. So like to narrow it down to one was impossible. So I
Okay,
would
yeah,
say,
as many as you want.
yeah. So first and foremost, if it's a late night, like if I get off a flight from New York or wherever I'm coming from, and it's like 1 a.m. or whatever, I gotta hit up Lucky Chances.
Coma
They're
Cafe!
yeah, Colma Cafe. Um,
Yeah,
it's so funny late at night. I think about like
it's the
some of
best.
the some of the people in the restaurant. It can the shady figures that you're surrounded with. It doesn't even matter because that sinigang be hitting
Uh,
at 1 a.m.
yeah, for sure,
There's
for
another
sure.
restaurant in Daly City that I love called Chibog. That's my
Cheapong, yeah.
yeah, it's my favorite bistek. Uh, Santong wings, of course, gotta do that.
Legend. Yeah, yeah.
Lately, Senor Sisig has kind of been, like, a big go-to as well, the Cali
Mhm.
burrito.
Yeah.
Again, I've got so
So
many that
many.
I can't even you gotta stop me because I will keep
Yeah.
going.
And you're naming stuff that you can't get anywhere else, so you have to do it here.
I'm telling
Yeah.
you, like, when you're on the road in the Midwest and the South, and each of these cities offer their own,
Sure.
specialties but there is just nothing like the sourness of a bowl of sinigang. That is, like, home for me or a
Yeah.
California burrito. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes, like, when I think of home, I usually it's, like, family and food. Those are the 2 things that
Yeah,
I miss
yeah.
so much.
Yeah, and I can see the route, you're coming from the airport, you gotta pass through Daly City, Colma, gotta go through the city, go across the Bay Bridge, you got all these places you can hit on the way from the airport to Alameda.
So much at your disposal. Sometimes it requires you leaving the Bay Area to realize just how incredible, it is, and that's something that I actually had to realize for myself. I had to leave and go to New York to realize for myself, like, "Oh, being Filipino isn't just a normal thing here." Like, it's not just like the
Yeah.
default. There's other people here. Whoa! And that's kind of the beauty of it all.
Yeah, yeah, you're preaching to the choir. I live in Daly City, so I'm there all the time,
Oh,
so,
nice, yeah.
yeah. Alright, so you've had so many roles, so many different roles, but is there a dream role or even just a production that you wanna be a part of?
You know, this question is funny because I think early on in my career, I used to think, like my main answer when I was younger was, "Oh, I wanna be sunny and in the heights."
Ah,
But when I unpack that idea of, like, why I wanted to be Sunny, it's because I had in in the original Broadway production, Sunny, the character, talks about things like gentrification and taking care of his community, and that's kind
mm,
of, like, always been at the forefront of where my concern has been in the world. Um, so now that I'm a little older and I've established myself more in my career, I look at the values of what keeps me going in theater, and I've talked about on this podcast, which is like connection and community. And um, I wouldn't necessarily say there's a specific role that I yearn to do. It would be really cool to be like John Lawrence, Philip Hamilton in Hamilton.
sure,
That would
yeah.
be really dope for like the resume and bucket list. But I think on a deeper level, being someone that can bring people together, especially Filipino Americans and Asian Americans who are new to the business and are just trying to find their place in an industry that oftentimes we're so individualized and navigating on our
Mm,
own. There was one time when I was still back in New York before we started rehearsals for Beauty and the Beast. I actually helped organize a dinner for um, our group called Broadway Barcada, which is based in New York, and it's a collective of Filipino American theater artists.
mhm,
And I wanted to do something more than just like a bar get together. So I organized a dinner at a Filipino restaurant, and I had a list of questions of, what is your your Filipino-ness mean to you in your daily lived experience? Like
Mm.
what does it mean to you as an artist? And we all got to share um, our thoughts and our feelings and even our some of our family history that we don't always get to talk about, or get the opportunity to share. And I think seeing everybody open up about where they came from in the Philippines or,
Mhm.
where they how they grew up, the significance of their identity to them, that was the kind of thing that was like we're often told by directors and choreographers what to do, but now we actually get to engage in dialogue with each other and share
Mm.
these parts of ourselves during a rehearsal and show process that we don't always reveal. And that was kind of a beautiful thing. And I think as I transition to getting a little bit older, because I'm getting kind of up there in age as a dancer, I see myself kind of more in that role of facilitating conversations and discussions about ourselves and our community and being a being a figure that's more than just someone who recites lines and choreography on a stage. Actually,
Yeah.
having significance in that part of people's lives. So that's that's kind of where my dream role sits right now.
Yeah.
Not a
Yeah.
very lightning round answer, but I
No,
hope.
that's fine. That's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, you were the little brother before, now you're the big brother. You're showing other people the
Oh
ropes.
yeah.
That's awesome. Our final question is we ask people who their infatuation is. Infatuation is any Asian in your community that you admire, could be living or deceased, someone you know or someone that you've never met. So, Julian DeGuzman, who's your infatuation?
My infatuation. I have to think on this one
Yeah.
because an answer doesn't come super immediately because there have just been I
Mm,
am I really am a product of the community that
mm,
both raised me and lifted me up when things were difficult. I would say one of those figures is my Asian American Studies professor,
mm.
um, Dr. Alison Tintianco Cubales.
Okay.
She's a professor at San Francisco State, but she's also a dear friend that
Mm,
brought me into the circle of ethnic studies and
mm.
allowed me the opportunity to unpack the layers of my performing career.
Oh.
She also began the program called Pinoy Pinay Educational Partnerships, which
Mm,
is a partnership between San Francisco Unified School District, San Francisco State University,
mm,
um, in bringing undergraduate and graduate students into schools for firsthand experience of teaching ethnic studies. And I am really grateful for that opportunity because I went into that thinking that I would be the teacher, but I left actually learning so much about
mm.
how to how to be a human being and how to deal and relate to people. Um, so Ate Allison, as we call her, I have a lot of gratitude for her for including me, this New York actor, with no real experience in community work, like,
Mm,
really caught up in my career until the pandemic happened, and she really brought me to the community and introduced me to different ways of thinking and understanding my place and purpose.
yeah,
So that
yeah,
is who I would
yeah.
say,
So, sounds like a perfect infatuation, especially a local one. Love the SF State, go Gators.
for sure.
Didn't even talk about. So you're getting your master's in Asian American Studies out here. I'm guessing mostly online, but you're doing some in person. You were out here for a class.
Yeah, so it actually started off as kind of a pandemic project because the theater industry
Right
stopped and we were all looking around like,
now, what do we do?
what do we do with ourselves? Because obviously, theater being the gathering of many bodies into one
Mm,
place could not happen, and it did not happen for years. So,
yeah,
joining the master's program, I started it. I still have to put the bow tie of my thesis, which is the most daunting part of it. But
sure.
I started that during the pandemic, and I was really grateful to have started the program online. But the one thing that I did really miss was,
Mm.
it's like one thing to have a conversation on Zoom, but like to have a deeply intellectual conversation where you get into the nitty gritty can be so hard when you're doing it through a screen. All I wanted, because I'm so used to interacting with all our craziness, I'm so used to being
Mhm.
face to face with
Mhm.
fellow actors in person. That's how we thrive and that's how we know the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and that's one thing I hope to eventually even spend more time on campus because I most of the program was online. I've only been to SF State like 4 times since the program started. So I hope to
Uh-huh.
eventually at some point like spend more
Yeah.
time and meet some of my professors in person.
Yeah. Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, no, that's cool. I'm I know the feeling. I started a master's program and I haven't finished it yet either. So one of these days we'll see.
I guess it'd be like that. There's so many instances I feel like my dad keeps saying like you have to finish because if you don't finish it, you're never going to. And I'm like, yeah, that's constantly the voice in my own head
Yeah.
too. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, this has been so much fun chatting. Everyone out there, what we have socials for you. What where can people follow you?
Yeah, Instagram at Julian of Guzman.
Okay, yeah, there we go. I'll put that in the show notes. I'll also put a link where people can buy tickets around the country, North American tour, Beauty and the Beast. Let's see. So the last thing I do kind of a little read here at the end, but then I ask you, the guest, to pick the third word. So I say, we hope that you're all happy, healthy, and safe. But I'm gonna let you pick the third word. So instead of safe, that's on you when I get there. You got one ready?
Sounds good. Yeah, I do.
All right, let me do this here. So, as I always mention, you can write to us, infatuationpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Instagram at infatuationpodcast, and I'll put all the details for Julian and myself in the show notes. Thank you so much for listening, everyone out there, and spending a little time with us. Please come back again, and we'll have a new episode for you every Wednesday. So, on behalf of Julian and myself, we hope that you're all happy, healthy, and
Connected to each other.
we'll talk to you soon, everyone. Bye.